Hello, this is Mark Holmes, the editorial director of Via Satellite, and now we have another of our Thursday morning conversations. Delighted to be joining me today. We have Rebecca Cowen-Hirsch from Inmarsat. Rebecca, welcome. It's nice to have you here today. Firstly, how have you been?
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. And, I've been doing very well, kind of getting used to this, whatever they refer to as the new normal lately, but, surviving and thriving. And, this is my favorite time of year. October and November is just perfect seasonal change.
Oh, why is it your favorite time of year? Just out of interest.
Just the colors, you can watch things change from, that beautiful spring and summer. And of course, in Washington, D.C., where I am, there's not much pleasant about the summer. It's just hot and humid. So as you make that transition into the fall and see the colors change, you can get outside and be more comfortable. The days get a little shorter, which can be disconcerting. But it just is that change in season, which I've been noticing more this year, I think, than previously, at least conscious of those observed seasonal changes. But it's a great time of year. It's great. I'm an outdoor person, so love to be outside and really taking advantage of the season.
Excellent. We'll come to that a little bit, but as always, we start Thursday morning conversations. We'd always like to talk about movies, drama, music. So we've all been in lockdown 7 months. Any particular dramas or movies that you've enjoyed?
Well, interestingly enough, we started thinking this lockdown was going to be a relatively temporary short-term item. And so I had this grand scheme to go through the Avengers series chronologically, which was really good fun because I'd seen, here, there, and yon, a couple of them, but had never really stitched them together. So we started with, Captain Marvel, and then went all the way through to End Times. And just researched and found the way that you're supposed to watch them chronologically, not the order in which they were filmed. And it was really striking to see the change in the technology in the filming, the different approaches that they've taken, and all the characters that were lesser known than others, but to see that all come together. And it was quite a journey to go see, to see all of those kind of streaming in on the Jumbotron into the living room.
Oh, so how many have you seen?
So we've seen all of them. So there were 22 of them in the standard series. I can say honestly, we could have legitimately missed the Incredible Hulk. Everything you need to know comes out in the rest of the movies, but that one particular one was our least favorite of them.
And did you have a favorite out of the 20 plus, or one that you thought you'd watch again?
I was surprisingly taken to Guardians of the Galaxy. I did not think that I would like it. Maybe it was the music that I liked in there, but I really enjoyed both of those. But I have to say, bringing all the characters together into the end times, that really was striking. And of course, there's nothing that ever really ends on these things. So who knows what's coming next, right?
Exactly. Well, you're up to date now anyway, so whatever comes next. We often talk about music as well here, and we talk about favorite bands, artists, gigs. What sort of music do you like, Rebecca? Who are your sort of favorite artists and musicians?
Yeah, so I have a rather wide and eclectic taste and range in music. More often than not, I will gravitate towards smooth jazz.
Okay.
And just there are some fantastic artists that are generating some really new covers that are coming out. But that's an area where I really, really enjoy. At the bottom line, any music, if I can dance to it, I'm happy with it. But smooth jazz is something that I really enjoy. I also like some of the modern day crooners, and original crooners as well. So. And then, take me back to some James Taylor and some folk music, anything that you can sing, turn the radio on in the car and just belt it out. People think you're talking on the phone or making some kind of funny faces or whatever else. But it's, if I can sing or dance to it, I'm a happy camper.
So what's your favorite song to sort of belt out in the car? So summer's day and, you've got your Spotify or whatever you listen to music to. What's the song that gets everybody in the car, everyone in the family going?
Well, I wouldn't say that everybody in the family has the same taste in music, just to be really clear. But of course, I control the dial, so it really doesn't matter. If I'm going to, put on James Taylor's greatest hits, there's not a single song in there that I can't butcher the lyrics. If Carolina on My Mind, it's Take Me Back. It's all good fun. Just something that is in my vocal range, which is very limited. But that doesn't stop me. I like to be able to let out all that excess energy through a good song. Now, the other thing that I would say is show tunes.
Yeah.
You bring the family all together and, show tunes. And if it's a Disney tune, we know it. And that's, they're all adults here. So just goes to show you that it traverses all the ages.
Yeah, at least you have a vocal range. I'm not even sure that I actually have a vocal range. Now, sources close to me have told me that you're into ballroom dancing. Is that correct?
That is a fact. Yes, very much so. My husband and I are amateur ballroom dancers, and really enjoy to get out on the floor, which we haven't been able to do, obviously, for quite some time. Though we are back now. At least working on dusting off our rusty skills and learning some new things and putting them out on the floor, at least for one another, but not in any kind of competition and the like.
Excellent. What are sort of your interest aside from ballroom dancing? What other things do you like to do when you're not thinking of satellites and government and the fun day-to-day stuff we all talk about?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm very much an outdoors kind of girl. So we are avid campers. Now, let me dispel the myth here. Glamping is probably a better description of what it is that we do. We have a 40-foot fifth wheel or a RV that we drag behind a truck, and it will take us just about anywhere. And take that out. We've taken our isolation show on the road and gone to the beach. We've gone to the mountains. We've gone to any number of places, and we love to do that just to get away, escape, disconnect as much as you possibly can nowadays, and hike. Just be outside and around and about. So that's actually been a really welcome diversion. One, we enjoy it, but also a diversion in today's kind of COVID environment. We, will actually be able to go out and take our camper out, our RV out, find a place, and be out in nature and hiking and or hanging out at the beach or doing whatever, just to be anywhere but kind of stuck in the basement office, if you will. And it fills a little bit of the travel bug that is missing in these times. Although I will say that the overhang of travel, of jet lag and bag drags and whatever else is not missed, but I do miss the locale and being with people and doing that interchange. So we really enjoy camping, hiking. We're avid walkers. My husband calls it the Bataan Death March, that we head out every day. It's our demarcation from work environment to shifting gears to home. So we actually have beautiful trails around where we live, and we'll get out and walk at a brisk pace. He says I should just run, but it works, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like, I guess we're about 8 months into this now. Obviously you have a very demanding job, a lot of pressures day to day. Do you feel it's sort of, what sort of changes has it meant for you sort of personally outside of, non-travel and sort of, the work-life balance?
Yeah, so I would say it's been in phases. The first phase was, oh look, I'm not traveling. Isn't this fantastic? Look at how much time I have to be able to connect, and all of our colleagues were similarly not traveling, and so to be able to have access to people was significantly improved because people weren't on the road and the like. So that access and engagement and interface, albeit virtual, was much more accessible. And just trying to get into that rhythm of what does it really mean to be, working completely in a virtual environment. There was a little novelness to it to a degree, and then it became a lot of sameness, death by Zoom. And I'm multiple platforms, equally as much Microsoft Teams as I am Zoom, as I am WebEx. But by the end of the day, you're just suffering from this fatigue of video engagement, and that line between work and at home was really, really challenging. So the next phase came, okay, we need to have that distinction and say, we're going to have a break point and differentiate. And that became really critically important. What's another thing that's changed is I'm doing so much more cooking. And so our diet has improved dramatically, and our palates similarly. And I've actually found that that's quite enjoyable to cook and to be able to say, oh, a little domesticity, who knew? And now it's, there's a more kind of in-person activity and engagement, which is very welcomed. We're built for community, and both on a professional level and certainly on a personal level. I think all of us have wrestled with, what is it? How do we have that work-life balance? And so, we've been very intentional about making sure that we take time to exercise and actually sit down and have a meal, so that there is that differentiation. But it does kind of bleed in, with our 24/7 and of course our global environment in which we're working. It's a little tough sometimes to turn it off and be home when you're home all the time. So who knows what tomorrow's going to bring, right?
I know. I'm very similar. I mean, I've worked from home for a number of years, but I've always had a lot of travel, so I've always gone away maybe just once every 5 or 6 weeks, and now I think I'm getting up for a year next month where I haven't traveled. So my family have had me home for the whole year. I think they're almost more keen for me to go on a business trip than I am. So you mentioned you've done some more cooking. Do you have a signature dish or a new dish that you cooked during lockdown that you thought I really nailed that dish?
I would say I've had more that was like, I'll never make that one again. I have found that, there's nothing that I won't try to make, which I never knew that I was an adventurous cook before. And I've tried a lot of different, a lot of Mediterranean dishes, a lot of different types. I've been, doing more baking, which is a dangerous thing to do because with baking comes calories, and with calories comes pounds, which is why we walk. So, my neighbors are actually really appreciating the fact that I deliver sweetbreads to them all the time. Here's some zucchini bread. Oh, I just made pumpkin bread. And of course it's apple season now, so everybody's getting apple things. But it's been good fun, and just really trying to add variety. It's not just that, okay, we've got half hour to put dinner on the table, let's get it done. Really just trying to explore and try different things.
I mean, I've got a confession to make to the whole satellite community that I actually baked my first cake during lockdown. Hopefully that won't make too many headlines, but I actually, in the first couple of months of lockdown, I said to my wife, I said, I want to try and bake a cake. And she looked at me somewhat incredulously, knowing my limited skills when it comes to sort of cooking and baking. So one Saturday, I got my my daughter to help me, and we baked a cake. Or I baked it, she helped me a little bit because I'm a little bit clumsy at the best of times. And I was like so proud. It's like, wow, I never would have imagined, I would have baked a cake, to be frank. So it was just one of those fun moments where all the house got together and like, wow, Mark's really doing this. He's not just saying it, he's actually trying to bake a cake. So it was one of the super fun moments of lockdown for us. So it was good, very good.
Yeah. So importantly, the world wants to know, Mark, did it taste good?
I would say so. Yeah, people did eat the cake, or at least they pretended. Or I saw them take a bite of it. Yeah, we actually took some round to my parents, and I think they were probably more shocked than anyone else. And they were really, we've got to see this. So we actually put it in put some of it in a container, then took it around, left it in the garden because we couldn't actually. This was like at the height of lockdown as well, so we couldn't actually go in the house at this stage, so we had to leave it on a table in the back garden and say, well, here's the cake, and then they sent photos of them later eating it. So that was a fun moment of lockdown. And again, it's great that you say that, because I think that's you end up doing these things. You think, you know what, there's things that I would we watched the Great British Bake Off, so it was always, it's one of those family things, even before lockdown, where we'd all sit around, we all watch Bake Off, and I thought, what, that might be fun to do. So let's give it a try. So next time I'm in Washington, I'm expecting big things. So I'll be telling the satellite team that Rebecca's baking a cake for us at Satellite.
I tell you what, if you bake a cake, I'll do the mains. We'll do the mains, and we'll have a fantastic feast. It'll be fantastic. It'll be wonderful.
Well, I think a few people are going to hold us to that now.
It's hard to believe, though, that the last time that there was a really large gathering that I attended was the satellite show in March, which got truncated.
Yeah.
So I don't cook for that large of a group. Just saying.
Yeah, I think a handful will be my limit, I think. But let's talk a little bit about work. I mean, the government side, ironically, we've just finished CyberSat, so we've had some very interesting discussions with, what the government is doing in terms of space. How has it been for you on the work front? I mean, obviously, Inmarsat, like most operators, is judged by its ability to do deals with different types of customers. So, what have you been seeing in I guess, in sort of the day-to-day job?
Yeah, so it's the in-person element is very, very limited. Obviously, I think that one of the challenges that we have had. Let's start with a challenge and then talk about really things that have been surprising and very successful. The challenges have been the installs. And even now, recently, we've had people actually fly to a location to do an install to support a particular customer. And of course, there's the quarantine on one side, and it's one might think that it would be to be stuck somewhere in Hawaii for 2 weeks without being able to do your install work would be fantastic, but it's not. It's very challenging. So those have been very challenging to accomplish. However, the work doesn't stop. We're as busy as ever. The market is as demanding as ever. And in the government space, governments continue to operate. And we've had a whole series of different activities from, a very, very active hurricane season. So we've seen a lot of first responders and emergency and disaster response. Of course, the military is very actively engaged on a global basis. And of course, all of our other markets. One of the fantastic things about Inmarsat is we are such a diversified business that there's strength in that. And of course, what we do, the mobility business is increasing, even while we've had some other markets, be challenged with the stand down of aviation. So it's what has been surprising is the adaptability of engagement. It's when you're operating in the government space. One wouldn't have envisioned that you would have this degree of engagement on a virtual or a video basis, yet everyone was locked down. So the demands for communication, the demands to continue to support those customers are maintained. You find very creative ways to accomplish that mission, leveraging local entities, traveling when and absolutely when necessary to meet those requirements, because that customer service is a hallmark and something we take great pride in, and it makes a difference. So we've found ways to do that. And of course, it's been, there's still things happening on a global basis. And of course, since we are a global operator, that's exactly where we live in our wheelhouse. It's also been very important to take care of our people during this time period. This has been a strain on many families with the student, the people, the students home doing virtual learning, making sure that we're actually supporting our people and enabling them to do their jobs while they're taking care of their families. And that's similarly true for the customers that we support. So it's been a very, very personal and interpersonal time, which has made it very incredibly important to maintain and improve those communications, and then to support the growth and the execution of the business, ensuring that we've got really strong, reliability. You were just talking about the cyber show. That security focus that Inmarsat maintains as a hallmark is critically important, and we do that both virtually and in person. So it's been very enriching to see how we've been able to solve all these challenging problems and have the effect that we intended to have, and to see even the growth in the business continue, even despite these very unusual times.
And I mean, the government, I mean, you mentioned mobility there, and obviously we've seen it happen in aviation and even maritime, probably to a slightly lesser extent than aviation. But has actually the government side, like sort of the piece you work on, has actually that remained relatively stable or even accelerated as the government have needed, obviously, communications at this time?
Yeah, it's if you were to look remotely and at the business, on the government business, it remains as vibrant and as demanding as ever. The manner in which you execute that has changed, but the operations continue. You still have soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines deployed on a global basis. You've got collaboration between allied nations. You have activities, whether it's emergency disaster response. These activities carry on in the midst of everything else that surrounds all the pandemic implications, the other aspects, and in some areas it's even busier than before. So the demand signal continues, and the business is growing, and it's very solid. And this is, of course, where you begin to differentiate yourself in how you meet those requirements given this very, very dynamic time. And that's something our customers have been very demanding of us, and also very appreciative of our willingness to be able to engage them exactly at this point in time.
And what do you think sort of 2021 looks like? We're coming towards the end of the year now, and we're all obviously hoping for a better year than what we've all had this year.
Yeah.
How do you see sort of the government market looking for you next year? I mean, obviously, still a very uncertain environment, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the one thing is, the government carries on and carries forward, and so I envision that it will continue to be an uptick in our market. That there will be, not rocket growth, but certainly continued steady growth. It's the technologies that. And the demand, the applications that are employing our network continue to evolve, and the demand signal continues to get higher. We're working to be able to, with our technology roadmap and our investment strategy, to be able to provide very interesting solutions to real challenging operational problems. Next year and beyond, we'll continue to solve those challenges and continue to demand more capabilities. So I see 2021 as, still very much in transition. This year has been very, disturbing for all of us as individuals because of this uncertain environment. And yet operationally, the networks are sound, the customers are consuming, and we're continuing to invest in our technology roadmap and providing unique solutions. So many of those solutions, and even as we look at our satellite networks, will carry on going forward in 2021 and beyond. So I see 2021 as a year of transition. If 2020 was, how does one describe this year, was interrupted in many ways, 2021 becomes that transition that says, okay, now how do we carry through and continue to meet all these obligations and continue to invest in our networks and work towards what's a very exciting time period with, over the next 4 years, we've got 7 payloads going up for our Global Express network, plus our L-band. And all of these are adding capabilities and really unique solution sets to a very demanding customer base. And what we have found is, the government users can be often on the leading edge of technology adoption. And then that comes back into our commercial networks as well. So I see 21 continuing to be that year, really a transition year as we figure out how to continue to, support our customers, how those users are evolving in today's environment. And then, things that happening on a global basis, it's very unsettled, and there's a response required by the governments on a global basis. And so we'll continue to support them and meet them and supply, world class, secure and redundant and resilient mobility capabilities. But it'll be a year of transition. It's a little hard to predict. My Nostradamus abilities are a little rusty. And of course, here in the US, there's a lot of uncertainty coming down in 2021.
Of course. We always like to end on a fun question. So So, we've talked about movies, we've talked about music. So I'm going to go back to ballroom dancing, and I want to sort of know your sort of favorite dance and stuff. So which is the dance that, I assume you watch Strictly, or what's the US version of Strictly called?
Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars, yes. So yeah, what is your sort of favorite? What is your favorite dance?
Well, it varies on the day, but I would say that my all-time favorite dance is tango. And I do the American version of tango, which is a combination of traditional ballroom as well as Latin. So it gives you that. What I like about tango is it really covers a lot of the floor, so it has a great deal of movement to it. It also adds a huge amount of drama. There's always a storyline underneath tango that is, that's the interpersonal relationships. It's a love story, it's conflict, it's resolution. It's everything that makes the human drama real. And it can be, it's a completely different character that is expected from me, and a little more drama than my normal day-to-day activities. So it actually draws out and puts me in what can only be described as my uncomfortable zone. But yet when it's all pulls together, it is a fantastic, emotional, dramatic demonstration of human nature. And it's also one that challenges me on so many levels, technically, dramatically, and then of course the physicality of it it's very, very demanding, but incredibly rewarding.
Fantastic. What a way to end the conversation. Rebecca, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you on so many. I think we covered so much ground in that sort of just under 30 minutes. So I want to firstly thank you for taking part today. It was actually really nice to have a good old-fashioned conversation with you. And I just want to wish you, your loved ones, your family, your colleagues, all the best. I've worked with Inmarsat for many, many years, as you know, and a big fan of the company. I think you do some tremendous work, not just in the satellite community, but for a lot of the verticals that you serve. So, I want to wish you all the best, and I hope I hope you can all have a good 2021. And thank you for taking part today. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. It was really a pleasure. I mean, you truly take the cake. So it was a pleasure to be with you and to learn something new, all of us, about you as well. And I appreciate the comments about Inmarsat. I love working there, and it's a pleasure to have a real conversation with you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. God bless.